Shall we begin?
Why not? Welcome to Frankie Sense and More. It's like she's got a whole lot of goodness for you with a little bit of sass.
Frankie, did you just say...
She sure did. Not to mention, along with...
Whoops.
Join us now as Frankie Picasso and her new co-host mix it up with authors, musicians, and interviews with world-changing people.
Let's begin.
Okay, let's begin now, because it only makes sense.
Hello there, and welcome to Frankie Sense and More. I am so excited today. I have two of Tyndale's Christian authors with us, Carre Armstrong Gardner and Tass Saada. But first, I want to welcome, it's his debut, his inaugural show with me, Frederic Bye. He's my new co-host.
Hello.
Hello, Fred. He also has his own podcast, Creative Magic Unchained. But we had such a great time in chemistry together when he was on the show that I wrote him immediately and said, you've got to be a co-host here. And he said yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I ain't missing on that opportunity. I'm so honored to be here and excited.
Me too. And I should mention that the accent that you hear is a French accent. He's French-Canadian. And so we have our little, I'm English-Canadian. So we have our little, tete-a-tete. You'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. But first, Fred has a positive news story. What I like on Frankie Sense is that we are loosely aligned with the United Nations global goals, and I like to make sure that they're always in the forefront of our minds because they're extraordinary. So go ahead, Fred. Take it away.
Yeah. So, I looked up some good news in the 6 o'clock news of the evening. You always have bad news, but here on the Frankie Sense and More, we have good news aligned with global goals. And I found this one, and the title is Homeless Man Offers Money to Pay Students Bus Fare. And I thought that was interesting, and I contacted Frankie about it. That's the one I suggested. Basically, a college student was ready to catch the bus to go home at night until she realized she could not go anywhere except on foot. While walking towards the bus stop, a homeless man approached Caroline Santana, asking for some change. She had been searching her purse for her bus pass and promised the man she would give him some money as soon as she could find any. And soon enough, the Brazilian student started thinking she didn't have the bus pass or money to pay the fare and started to worry. And seeing the situation unfold, the homeless man did not seem to think twice. Do you know how much is the ticket? Because I have $4 and I will be happy to give it to you. That's what the homeless man said.
Yeah.
And, that's just, to me, that's heartwarming. It's directly aligned with like I said, the global goals. It's about, erase poverty, and generosity
right.
is all about, erasing poverty, basically. A poor man gives money to somebody who has the money.
Well,
and
he certainly wasn't poor in spirit.
Poor man.
Was he? I mean, he had this wonderful spirit, and he saw this young girl, and he worried for her safety to walk home at night. And so, he went through what he had and offered to give, instead of, he was looking for money, but he offered to give up what he did have for her, which is very sweet. And you're right. The UN Global Goals does promise to erase poverty by, the next 3 years, actually. And by 2030, all of their goals will be in place at 17 of them. So it's pretty fantastic. Okay, well, thanks for that story.
Hey, no problem.
It was a good one. I liked it. Let's talk to Carre Armstrong Gardner. She's a nurse. She's an author. She's a former worker with children at risk in Russia. And she lives in Portland, Maine with her husband and 3 teenagers and 2 dogs that I don't think she wants to have at her house. I don't know. We'll have to ask her about those. She's the author of They Danced On. Is that the 3rd in the Darlings series? I'm not 100%.
Yeah, it's the 3rd one, and it just released this last month.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, it's a wonderful book, and it really touched my heart, Carre, because I'm at that stage where my children have left. I'm always looking for new things, and I still feel empty. I still feel like as much as I have in my life, there's like something missing.
Cut out, Frankie. I don't hear you.
Oh, sorry. As much as I have in my life, I still, like I said to my husband yesterday, I still need more. The kids, my daughter's moving to San Diego. She's getting married. My sons are already married and out of the house. And my even though they're having grandchildren and kids and whatever, I feel bereft that I'm not a mother full time. So it was very timely to read your book and to see what your protagonist was going through. And, with the Darlings, she had a husband of 40 some odd years who was dying with a terminal disease. She had a daughter who was addicted to alcohol. You had a lot of themes going on. So how did you, and even an adoption, she had been pregnant early on, at like 17 and had to give up this baby. Where did you come up with all of this? Like, did any of this touch your life personally?
A lot of it does come from my life experiences, or at least life experiences that I can translate into fiction. And a lot of it was a process. I wrote the first book, and I pretty much had that squared away. And a lot of the second book, I originally wrote the series as one big book. I think when I signed a contract with my agent, I don't know, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I had one massive 600-page book, and he said, this is too big for a first novel. This is like epic fantasy length fiction. So he suggested that I break the book up into 2 books, and then based on that, we sold a 3-book series. So at the time that I was writing the first 2 books, I didn't know what was going to happen in the 3rd book. So it was probably the least well-planned of the books, but it's actually my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I know, I'm no, and Tass, you feel free to jump in anytime. I am no expert on the Bible, certainly. But one of the themes that you had going on was that, I'm sorry, the wife's name again?
The wife's Jane.
Jane, yeah. Jane was really angry at her husband because she felt as his terminal disease progressed and he was getting weaker, she was angry at him that she thought his faith wasn't strong enough, because if he just believed a little bit more, then God would save him and he wouldn't have to get into a wheelchair or use a walker or have a feeding tube or whatever else was coming down the pipe for him. He had ALS, which, as we know, is a horrible disease to die from. You're a nurse, you know that. So that idea that his faith wasn't strong enough, like hers was, but his wasn't. So she blamed him for pretty much she blamed him for the disease in a way.
Yeah. And so I think what happens is that not just in the area of health, but in a lot of areas, I think a lot of times people in the church can settle for kind of reductionist answers, like, if this happens, then that will happen, as if God were sort of a genie in a bottle that you rub. If you rub it the right way, he'll give you what you wish for. And I think what happens, the truth is that God, I have found, wants to sometimes teach us deeper lessons. And so the answer that we think we deserve, or we think is promised, he has something better in mind for us. And I think Jane comes to find that in the book, that she learns some deeper lessons when she doesn't get the healing that she asked for.
Let me ask you this: how did writing the book help you help your children with stuff like that, addiction?
I think originally I didn't write the series for the Christian market. I didn't ever plan on writing for the Christian market. In fact, I think as I move on, I don't plan to write for the Christian market, but that's where my agent sold it, and that was fine with me. And so, but of course, my editors wanted a little bit more of the spiritual slant on it, so they walked me through that process of developing my character's spiritual journeys much more than I had originally written. And so it forced me to put words to my own faith issues in a way that I was sort of intellectually honest to me.
Oh,
that's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, when reading it, you would think that you were a real scholar of the Bible.
Well, I am a Bible college graduate, actually.
Okay.
In the church, so I always sweep the Bible categories in Jeopardy, but yeah, I think because when you grow up in the church, you learn sort of a lingo for your faith that everybody else in the church understands. But what I would like to do is be able to talk about my faith to people who don't have that lingo or that background. And people who are, you grow up you live in Portland, Maine, and it's an intellectual community. And you have to be able to speak to that intellectual community in a way that rings true to them. And so that's my goal, is to be able to speak to people who don't have that vocabulary or that background in a way that is palatable and relatable to them.
Are they receptive?
They are receptive. They're incredibly receptive. Yeah, it's my publisher considers this book a crossover book in that it appeals to both Christians and non-Christians.
I think so. I mean, I think it answers that age-old question: why do bad things happen to good people?
I think you're exactly right, Frankie.
Yeah, it's
Or I think maybe a better way, the way I would put it is, bad things happen to good people. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because really, I think that we're all here, that we all have a purpose and we're all here for our own lessons and our own journey. And the things that are going to come into our life, like the things that came into Jane's life, were for our own growth. So yes, her husband was going to die, but how was she going to grow after? She had to learn to do her own taxes. She had to learn to do the book. She had to figure out how she was going to sustain herself, emotionally after he died. So those are big things. Those are big life lessons.
Yeah.
Real quick, was it easy to write the characters? To write.
It was to write the characters. The characters to me are fully formed, and I, at a risk of doing my own books a disservice, I think they're books about where there's not a real fast-moving plot. They're sort of like the life of the everyday person. But where I think my strength lies is in creating these fully formed characters. And in my own reading, I don't really care so much what happens in a book, but I want to be able to feel like I can take the characters home and put them in my guest room and be friends with them.
Yeah.
I think you did a good job of characterization. We're going to go to commercial break in just less than a minute, but you did do a very good job at that. I could recognize any of them on the street as far as their personalities and their emotional and physical characteristics. So I think you did a really good job there.
Thank you.
If you sat at the dinner table with them, you'd know who they were.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's absolutely for sure. Okay, well, we are going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we are going to say hello to Tass Saada, and he is the author of Mind of Terror. And trust me, you are not going to want to miss this conversation. Right, Fred?
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
I'm so happy to bring him on, and I hope that, and we encourage, as I said, we encourage Carrie to stick around because we're going to have a group conversation in the end, and you're welcome to call in and talk to us as well. Don't go anywhere.
Just getting warmed up. Frankie Sense and More will be right back after we pay the bills.
It's words you never heard.
Did you hear about the Gaberlunzie bear caught rummaging through a refrigerator in an apartment in Colorado? The tenant heard noises coming from the kitchen and saw a bear with his head in the fridge, looking for anything it could eat. What's the word for food that's unfit for human consumption? Ma wallop. The tenant locked himself in his bedroom and called for help. What's the word for the fear of bears? Ursophobia. We have lots of bears near our Colorado cabin, and we have been told that pepper spray will keep them away. But the idea that it would keep a 500-pound grizzly bear from attacking seems ridiculous to me. I think I'll try the pepper spray on myself and hope the bear doesn't like spicy foods.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
One of the best ways to prevent injuries while exercising is by warming up first. Most of us are in a hurry, and it can be tempting to skip your warm-up and get right into your workout. But don't do it. Warming up is vital and necessary. Taking 5 to 10 minutes to get your body prepared for a good workout is well worth it. If you're going for a run or a brisk walk, walk slowly first and increase your speed so that your heart rate is rising. Even if you're doing a weight workout only, it's important to warm up for at least 5 minutes on the treadmill or just by walking around. Warming up gets the blood flowing to your muscles, heart, and joints and prepares them for a good workout. Mentally, it gets you focused on what is ahead, whether it is running, biking, lifting weights, or another mode of exercise. So don't skip your warm-up. It's an essential part of every workout. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
And welcome back to Frankie Sense and More. I'm here with my new host, Frederic Bye.
Hello.
Host Frankie Picasso. Carre Gardner, we just spoke to her. And coming up now is Tass Saada, and he is the author of Mind of Terror. So what motivates Islamic terrorists? What is in the mind of a terrorist? Well, former Muslim, one-time sniper with Yasser Arrafat's Fatah organization, Tass has lived it himself. And he is going to take us into the mind of terror. He's also the founder of a Hope for Ishmael, a non-political organization and nonprofit that is reconciling Muslims and Jews with the word of Christ. And just a wonderful turn of events. So welcome, Tass.
Hello, Frankie. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I want to, tell the folks here that you were 42 years of age living in America when you found Christ, I guess, is the way to put it. But before that, you had lived in Palestine. You lived in the Gaza Strip, did you?
No, actually, I grew up in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar from the age of 2 months old.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
I thought your parents had moved to Qatar from Palestine. Okay, so you grew up in Qatar, and you grew up with a deep-seated hatred of Jews, of the Israelis, because they had taken the homeland in your eyes.
That's right. That's right. That was the motive that I had when I was 16 and a half years old to run away from home because my father didn't want me to do that. And ran away and joined Yasser Arafat to fight Israel for a homeland, just to go back to my homeland. Even though I was not born in I was not born in Jaffa. I was born in Gaza because my family lived at home in 1948, right before the war, to escape the war, and that's where I was born then in Gaza. And 2 months after my birth, my family immigrated to Saudi Arabia. So I grew up in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, as a Muslim and as a Palestinian immigrant and refugee.
So at 16, just a minute, Fred. What 16?
Yeah,
you went to train and fight with Yasser Arafat. You were even his driver, weren't you?
I was a crazy driver, that's for sure. They used me to drive him.
And a sniper, a trained sniper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Eventually, I was trained to be an assassin, and I did some assassination work for him, targeting Israelis and the Christians on my own. Not by the orders of Arafat. When I went after Christians, because I believe Christians are agents for the Jews and spies for Israel, and so I went after them too. That wasn't really Arafat's orders. It was my own intuition, my own doing. I was angry. I was frustrated. I wanted a homeland.
Go ahead, Fred.
No, I was just going to say, basically, why were you angry? I mean, how was your life in Saudi Arabia? Because we have this perception from here in America that it's conservative, it's hard, it's, you know what I mean? Is our perception real?
Growing up in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar, my family did very well. My father became very wealthy, but yet we are still recognized as Palestinian immigrants and refugees. And we have even a Jordanian citizenship that says at the bottom of the passport, third-class citizen.
Wow.
And so growing up like that, it was building up in my heart anger and frustration. Why am I an immigrant? Why am I a refugee? And so when we lost the 67 war, I realized that's it. These Arab leaders are wicked, and they're selling us up to the Jews. I'm going to go fight for my homeland. And that's when I ran away from home.
Now, this is where it gets very interesting, because in your book, when you take us into the mind of Islam, of a Muslim, I found it absolutely fascinating that it's not... The reason that we can't actually come to terms because we don't understand how they think. So they don't think as an individual; they think as a single organism, correct? And so when they think in terms of honor, and the honor is not the honor to you, but it's the honor to your forefathers for not doing something today for them. So it's a very different mindset. than what we're used to thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so, go ahead.
That's true. Go ahead. What you have said is really absolutely true, and that's why it is difficult for us, for me, for example, of becoming a Christian. If I did not have seen Jesus speaking to me in a form of a light, saying to me, I am Jesus, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I instantly believed and become a follower of Jesus. If I did not have that vision, my drive to do good and right, I would not be in the same position that I am today. I sold my heart entirely to Jesus. Although my family have gone after me to kill me if I don't go back to Islam. They paid a tax to come after me.
You lived in America for 20 years. That alone, you sold out to the enemy with your family.
Yes.
But even when you lived here for those 20 years, you still, a good Jew was a dead Jew in your book, right?
Exactly.
And you kept that anger and that hatred all of those 20 years. And then you had a spiritual experience, like a mind-blowing spiritual experience. Tell us what happened.
The thing is, Frankie and Fred, I hated America and Americans just as much as I hated the Jews before I came to America. But yet I was so drawn to come to America for some reason. Now I understand why. But when I came to America and I was in college, and the American people were accepting me and they were treating me, just like anybody else. They didn't call me an immigrant and refugee like the Saudis and the Qataris did against us. I thought there is something wrong in the way I was thinking about America. And that's when I decided to start looking into how I can live in America and how I can stay in America. And I was told to marry an American girl. So I thought, that's easy, that's no problem. So I went hunting for an American girl. And I found one. And, my intentions were not honorable. Yeah, they were not honorable. I wanted to marry Karen, have my papers in America within 2 years' time, and then say goodbye. Mm-hmm. But thank God, she is still my wife today, 42 years later.
And you have two children, a boy and a girl, right? Sorry, Fred.
I have a boy and a girl, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think, you say that when you came to America, your perception changed about America. Do you think if Americans would go to these countries, their perception would change towards these countries?
If I did not come to America and I did not experience the American people genuinity of loving and caring for other people, no, I probably would not have. I would have been the same.
The difference is that over there, they see American TV, and what they think of is pornography, and we're into drinking, and we're into all of the things that they're against.
So and this is exactly some of the reasons why. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that built up the mind of terror. Actually, exactly the same things you are pointing out right now.
Oh, okay.
But because of one man also that really loved me and respected me and treated me as an equal person when I was a busboy, and thanked me for taking his dirty dish away, that really touch my heart. And I liked that man so much and respected him, and he became my friend. And I couldn't understand why this man, his name is Charlie Sharp, why would he love me? Why would he respect me? Why would he treat me as an equal person when he was a multi-billionaire? Not just a millionaire, billionaire. This guy, that really intrigued me. And the relationship continued on for 19 years before he began to move on me to tell me about Jesus. And God created such a situation for us that it had to be him. I went back to buy a restaurant where I started as a dishwasher, a French restaurant. And I didn't want to leave it in the rental property. I wanted to own my own building. So I was looking for a building to buy, and Charlie, being a businessman, he was telling me about a place I should go to look at. That place I went to, I just saw 3 days before, and it was a funeral home, a place where they fix people, getting them ready for burial.
Right.
Being a Muslim, knowing the teaching that, in places like that, there is always demons and ghosts all over the place. I was so scared when I walked in there, I ran out of there. So I said to Charlie, I was there just 3 days ago. And man, when I walked in there, I felt creeps all over the place, demons and ghosts. And he laughed at me. And for the first time in 19 years, he ever brings up the subject of God. He said, Tass, do you know why you felt scared like that? I said, no, why? He said, because you don't have the fear of God in you. I was shocked. I said, Charlie, what are you talking about? I'm a Muslim. I fear God. He said, no, you don't. But not to worry. He said, I can help you with that. And he points his finger to the sky and he says, I have connection. I laughed at him. Exactly.
And that's when you have the vision?
I laughed. And I walked away. But that word, connection, 19 years earlier, he thanked me for taking his dirty dish away.
Yeah.
That captured my heart. Now he tells me about connection, he captures my brain. I'm thinking about this connection. What is this connection? And I keep calling him, and he would not tell me. He's not quite ready yet. 3 weeks until I got to the point where I could not eat, I could not sleep, I could not function, except thinking about this connection. Finally, Charlie decided.
When we come back, we're going to hear about the connection. That is a fascinating story. Do not go anywhere if you want to find out what happens next. It's a 19-year story in the making, from busboy to buying a building and then finding Jesus. Okay, well, Fred, are you on the edge of your seat yet?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. When we do, we're going to hear the end of Tass's story, and then we're going to have a chat with everybody.
Cents and more. We'll be right back after we pay the bills.
Welcome to Geraldine Tegelov Live, the show that shares with you the secrets of redefining, reinventing, and rebuilding your life. Having pulled herself from the rubble of financial ruin and having gone on to create a highly successful career, Geraldine has become an expert in the art of transformation. She believes that it doesn't matter where you are right now, how overwhelmed you feel, or how impossible the task of turning your life around may seem. You can do it. Stay tuned as metaphysician, international best-selling author, and intuitive Geraldine Tegelov gives you the inner understanding and the outer practical how-to to create your amazing life. Gain a fresh perspective on how to redefine, reinvent, and rebuild your life. Join Geraldine Tegelov live every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the TogiNet Radio Network. It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
If you are looking to drop a few extra pounds or to just get more toned, working out with an exercise ball is a good idea. Livestrong.com says that when you perform exercises on a stability ball, you are engaging your core and helping to shape and tone your abs. Exercising with a stability ball, also known as an exercise or fitness ball, will strengthen your core and improve your balance and stability. They remind us that it isn't possible to spot reduce. You need to consume fewer calories than you burn, and then the weight will come off all over your body, including around your waist. As you are cutting back on calories, be sure to use the exercise ball during this time to tighten and tone your waist. Your newly sculpted abs will become more and more visible as your weight decreases. I'm Annette Hammond. Like us on Facebook at Fitness Minute with Annette Hammond.
And we're back I am your host, Frankie Picasso. You're listening to Frankie Sense and More. My co-host, Frederic Bye, is here. Carre Gardner's here. And, of course, Tass Saada. He was just going to tell us the end of his story. Tass was talking to his friend Charlie, and Charlie had mentioned Jesus to him, and he had thought about him. And now, tell us the end of your story.
Yeah. So Charlie, after 3 weeks of leaving me sit and wonder about this connection, he picks me up and takes me to his house to tell me about his connection. As he was walking into the door, opening the key, turning the key, he said to me something that just absolutely drove me crazy. He said, "Tass, to have the peace that I have, you must love a Jew." I froze. Now, Charlie knew how much I hated Jews until that moment. Mm-hmm. But I thank God for his love for me that he was willing to tell me the truth. Mm-hmm. He calmed me down and said, "Let's go sit down." So we went inside, sat down, and said, "Charlie, what is this connection?" He said, "What do you know about Jesus?" I said, "I know Jesus, and we believe in him. He's a prophet." He said, "Well, he's more than a prophet." I said, "What is he?" He said, "He's the Son of God, and he's God." I jumped off that sofa. I said, "Charlie, that is a blasphemy. I don't believe in this. I'm getting out of here." And I was running towards the door. Charlie yelled at me and he said, "Charles, calm down, come back, sit down. Give me a minute." So I went back down. He brought his Bible. And he set his Bible between the two of us. A brand new Bible. He took out of the box. He set it right next to me. And I jumped away from it. Charlie said, "Why did you jump like that?" I said, "I can't touch that." He said, "Why? It's just a piece of paper." And he was flipping the page. I said, No, it's got the Word of God and the name of God in it. He said, "So you believe this is the Word of God?" I said, "Yes." Why did I say yes? When we as Muslims really don't believe the Bible is still valid as the Word of God. So Charlie said, "Okay, if you believe this is the Word of God, let me read to you what it says about Jesus." I said, "Go ahead." He took the Bible and he opened. Brand new Bible, didn't have any marking or anything. He just opened and he looked at the Bible and he started smiling and began to read to me from John 1:1. He said, "In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God in the beginning." As far as I heard him reading, I started shaking violently and I lost conscience. The next I know, I'm on my knees on the floor with my hands lifted up, inviting Jesus to be my Lord and Savior. I heard myself saying that. Wow. I'm looking at Charlie, and he's sitting in that sofa, and he's shaking, and he's crying, and I was worried about him. I thought something happened to him. I said, "Charlie, what's the matter? What happened?" He said, "Man, I've never seen anything like this in my life. It looks weird, but I like it anyway." And he comes and he hugs me in. And he started saying to me, "When I started reading the Word to you, you started shaking violently. Then you were taken off the sofa in the air, and it looked like you were fighting something. Then you were brought down to your knees, and then your hands were lifted up. And he said you started speaking in a language you said I didn't know what you were saying. I was speaking to a light that was saying to me, I am Jesus. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And there is no other way to the Father except through me." Mm-hmm. And that power of his love that was being poured on me, I have never experienced that kind of love. I was so on my face, on the ground, and crying like a baby, wanting more of him. And since then, my life was the same again. Mm-hmm. I realized I was not saved just to be a Christian. There's a calling on my life.
You've experienced both. So you've experienced both religions. What are the main differences that you've noticed? You know what I mean, between Christianity and realized Islam.
Studying the Bible, I realized that is the true Word of God. That's the true God. That is the true faith. Islam is not a religion of God. I realized that. And
it's not a religion of peace,
you said? Not with such a joy in my heart because my family are still Muslims.
You said in the book that Islam is not a peaceful religion.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. And it's not. And I deal with that in my own heart every day, crying out for my family.
What about all those Muslims who say that it is a religion of peace and it's misunderstood, and because we hear that a lot too.
I'm sorry. Some of those are deceptive, and some of them may be genuinely believing that Islam is a peaceful religion. You know, when we look at the Arab people in particular, they are the most hospitable, loving people. They are. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about religion, that comes different. If they are not reading the entire Quran, most of them don't really know the entire Quran.
Mm.
And,
Carrie, I
and
invite you
they,
to come in and ask questions and talk with us. Were you a practicing Muslim in America? Did you pray 5 times a day?
I did not, to be honest about it, but I helped building a mosque.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Now your daughter, Farah.
But I did understand and know religion quite deeply. Yes, the Islamic religion.
Let me ask you about your daughter Farah before she became Christian. She was born in America, and yet she really held on to being Islamic and being Palestinian. Like, she identified very strongly with that. Why is that?
Yes, because she didn't like her dad. And she was not about, and also she has connected with my family back in the Middle East, and she really didn't want to lose that relationship. As an Arab, as a businessman, I have built my business, and I worked day and night, and I had really not very much relationship with my family. My business was my career and my drive, and so I did neglect my family in a lot. And my daughter, of course, she took it. She believed that I didn't like her because she's a female, and I didn't want to have relations with her. And to my sadness, yes, I did. And that
did she
really
wear a
hurt her. I'm sorry? No.
Did she wear? No, she didn't wear a head covering. No.
No, she did not. But she was proud of the fact that she was Muslim. Mm-hmm. And when I become a Christian, she said, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And because she was so popular among the Christians also in the schools that she was the only Muslim. She was the only Muslim in the schools, so she was so popular.
But your son, your older son, had become a Christian the week before you.
3 months before me,
3
as a
months
matter of
before
fact.
you.
And that is an amazing miracle also, because if I knew that, I would have probably killed him or disowned him, just as my family did.
Wow.
But I praise God for the wisdom of the pastor where he was saved.
Fred, you have to understand that him killing his son is not him killing his son. It's the honor of all of the people, all of the Muslims in the world to tell him to do an honor killing. I mean, it's very difficult to understand. Carrie, please jump in whenever there's something you want to say.
This is fascinating to me.
Is there a peaceful solution to all of this? Because there's so much chaos about that right now. Everything is happening. In your opinion, Tass, is there a peaceful solution besides war?
Yes. I do believe the only answer is Jesus. This conflict between Arabs and Jews is the heart and the core of all of this terrorism that we see in the world. Yeah. Okay.
But not ISIS.
In my book, The Mind of Terror, in The Mind of Terror, I gave...
Yeah, that's it. Because now it's getting between America and Christians and, versus the Muslims. Now, it's no longer just the Jews, you know what I mean?
Well, when you read my book, The Mind of Terror, you will find 6 reasons that I wrote in my book that creates the mind of terror. Mm-hmm. And I wrote in my book also The Mind of Peace. Mm-hmm. And I gave 5 ways that we can change the mind of terror to the mind of peace. Mm-hmm. And this is the way that we can reach to Muslims around here in the United States and in Europe. I see rhetoric today about the refugees, for example, and the fight against bringing refugees. Well, I am totally for the refugees, but of course we have to make sure that these refugees that are coming to this country are not going to come to hurt us.
Yeah.
Right.
The book is based helping Christians, the followers of Jesus, how to reach out to Muslims in their neighborhood and how to change the mind of terror to the mind of peace. Not everyone that's coming from the refugees are coming with the mind of terror. No, that's not. There are many Muslims that are coming to have a better life for their family and for themselves. And those are the ones that we need to target when they come to this country. The church is the one that needs to be out there receiving them to help them. To help them to understand,
just say,
change their mind.
I think that's you've hit the nail on the head. Not many of us can affect global change on a global level, but we can always affect it in our neighborhood. Portland, Maine is a refugee and immigrant resettlement city, and we have a huge Middle Eastern population here, and that's what some of the local churches are doing. They're reaching out to help meet practical needs for furniture and clothing and that kind of thing, and just to offer friendship to people who are strangers in a strange land.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to go to in a few minutes, but for me, one of the faces of terror is the full, I can't remember the name of it now, when the women wear the full garb and all you see is their eyes. What is that called?
Yeah.
The burqa. Yeah. And
the burqa,
to not see somebody's face is a very scary thing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I find that for her, I feel horrible that she can't show her face. But on the other hand, it's a scary thing not to know who's under there. We are going to go to a commercial break, and I want both of you to address that, all of you actually, when we come back from the commercial. Let's talk about how we feel about that, because I think a lot of people feel that way. Not that, I've got nothing against the person under it. It's the face of no face, I guess. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're coming right back, folks. Stick around. If you want to join us, you're welcome to. You can call in, and it's 903-787-5887.
Right back after we pay the bills.
Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life, and the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network. Radio with a cutting edge.
It's words you never heard.
Got a lead foot? According to state troopers, here's what not to do when you get pulled over. Don't be a lachrymous and start crying right away. It doesn't help. But if you're under 20, crying won't be held against you. Don't ask for a break, and don't yell or start any argy-bargy. And one trooper said, if they're going to flirt with me to get out of a ticket, it would probably insult my intelligence. But unfortunately, I don't get hit on all that often. So flirting or being a gill flirt won't work. Did you know that 15% of all drivers get 76% of all traffic tickets? And the odds of winning if you challenge a traffic ticket in court are 1 in 3. So what should you do when you get pulled over for speeding? be courteous to the officer, and most of all, be honest.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
And you're back. It's Frankie Sense and More. And before we went to our break, Carrie had a thought about, we're just while we were off break, actually, she mentioned that, when you're one-on-one with a stranger and you get to know them and they, you're faced with a Muslim or somebody, with Islamic background, it's easy to like them. It's easy to start a friendship. It's easy to care one-on-one. It's harder to care when you have this face of terror looking at you. But I did talk about the woman who was covered in the burqa, who are in this country. I see the men in their shorts and wife beaters, tank tops, walking around while their women are, sweltering under this heavy garb, and can't even show their face. And to me, like that's their freedom being taken from them.
Sure. Yeah.
And identity. What do you say, Tass, to that?
In some way, it is indeed, but it is also the religion and their own guard themselves. Also, not most of them, not most of them, but some of them, they would rather to have that freedom to be, but their wives, their husbands are the ones guarding that to make sure that they are covered up. It's part of the religion. Now, the men.
I heard that it wasn't in the
part of the religion. They have they should not be wearing shorts. You mentioned shorts.
Right,
part of the religion, they should be wearing down below their knees, even the men.
Okay.
Yeah, but they don't
I have
apply
to ask
that.
You this. I have to ask you this because it's always being mentioned with the suicide bombers. The ones that they. That they bring in and for some reason they're willing to kill themselves for the good of the group. What is it with the 72 virgins? What is it that's so exciting about that?
I tell you, I was visiting with Yasser Arrafat back in 2004, just before he passed away, 5 months before he passed away. I asked him that question. I said, Mr. President, I don't remember you telling me about the 72 virgins when I was fighting for you. You never told me these things. So I have a bone to pick with you. How come you didn't tell me about that? He laughed, and then he looked me in my eyes and he said, you really believe that stuff?
Yeah.
I was laughing. It is really something that the Islamic theologians have created in order to give an incentive for men and women to go and die for the cause of Allah in order to have that privilege. And
what do the women get?
The woman does not receive that particular privilege. The privilege for her is to be a slave to the man during those 72 virgins.
Great.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Well,
yeah, that's
this
so
is
interesting.
the sad part. Yes. No, it is. It really is the sad part of the Islamic society and the way Muslims are raising their males and females, unfortunately.
One of the questions that I know a lot, sorry. Go ahead, Fred. It's okay. Let's talk to Carrie for a second.
I was just going to ask, you mentioned there were a lot of Middle Eastern people in your area. And you mentioned that, Christian church take them in, but do you feel that there's a little bit of tension there in your area?
I do not. Portland, Maine is a really, as a whole, is really politically liberal and very pro-immigrant in this area. So I think that the general attitude and sort of feel is that we're very, very accepting of people of other cultures. In my opinion, in my experience.
Here's the thing about this. Yes, they segregate themselves because they have not seen the acceptance of the people around, drawing them to take them away from the segregation. The church have segregated itself in many ways. But I do believe, because of the violence that has been taking place in Syria and in Iraq, the Muslims themselves are really wondering, and I've heard these questions many times from Muslims. Is this religion of Islam, is this Allah a true God? They are wondering. Many Muslims are wondering that, and this is the time for us, for the church to shine and start
Muhammad was a prophet, right? Muhammad is a prophet?
Right.
When did he turn into a god?
So-called prophet.
Right. So-called prophet, but when did he turn into God? He was a prophet. Isn't there a level of hierarchy that says a prophet is God?
He turned to Allah.
Okay.
Allah and God are not the same. Now, it depends on who you think of is Allah. Now, in my writing in the Arabic Bible, for example, when I read, in the Bible, in the Arabic Bible, they use the same term Allah as God. But it is for us to decide who is that Allah that we are praying for example. Okay? And the Muslims are believing that Allah, their Allah, is not the same Allah as us, the Christians, either.
Right.
Which is true. We're not.
You said that for the honor of your family is that they would have to kill you if you came home, if you went to visit them. Now your daughter has become Christian. She was very close to your family. Now is it that she would be stoned or killed if she went to see them?
No, now we have a better relationship with our family in the Middle East. I did go in 2004 after I visited with Arafat. My heart was so broken for my family. I decided, Lord, I'm going to go to visit, even if they kill me. And I talked to my wife, and I said, let's send prayers, ask the intercessors to pray for me. And I went in 2004. I went there. It was 11 years since the last time I've seen my family, and I called my brother, and I said, I'm coming to see you, the firstborn. And he said, what, did you forget that I was going to kill you? I said, I didn't forget, but I'm coming to see you. So I went to see him. I flew into Doha Airport.
See, love can conquer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said love can conquer all.
Yes. And I just, when I saw him out there with his gun, he had his gun waiting for me with three witnesses. And I went to him and I kissed the right side of his neck. In our culture, this is saying to him, I honor you and I submit to your authority. Do as you wish. And I stepped back. And that broke my brother, started crying. And he grabbed me and he hugged me. And I'm telling you, God just gave me so favors.
Yeah.
God reached my brother's heart. And he grabbed me and he hugged me and he was crying.
Nice.
We were crying. And since then, my relationship has changed. Now, he has not come to Islam, to Christianity yet. Yet is a key word. I'm still on it, working.
Has he come to America?
So, he's come to America one time. But I've been back to Qatar several times, and I've seen him there, and he's accepting us. He loves my daughter, and he wants to see her. I was there just in December at Christmas. I went there, celebrated Christmas there, and he loves my daughter, Farah, and he wants to see her. And she loves them too. And she's a strong leader. She is a very strong. She
seems very strong, and her look is very strong. But what does she think about the stoning of women and the honor killings of women? What does she think of that?
Of course, she feels so sad about that, and she does. She wrote part of this book, The Mind of Terror. She wrote part of that, and she wrote another book to reach out to Christian Arabs, to reach out to Muslims, calling Lead with Love. and she's working along the church side of the church to train Christians within the church to reach out to Muslims within their communities and how to reach out to them. And she's very active, and soon she is going to be the CEO of Hope for Ishmael and Seeds of Hope. And I'm very proud of her.
That's exciting. I live in my city is 120,000. I live in Cambridge, Ontario. I have Islamic school. There's 2 temples and another one being built. And that's, very small community for that many. So that, it's a big Islamic community.
Well, I would love for Farah to be on your show as well.
I'd love to have her. Yes.
She would be very, very excited about sharing with you how to reach out to Muslims in the community. And we are going to be in Canada in February. As a matter of fact, she's going to be on the show with me on the conference that we'll be speaking.
Awesome.
Nice. In Canada, yeah.
Thank you.
And so,
well, we've only got 2 minutes left. I just want to mention, Carrie, you have a new series that you're starting.
Yes, I am.
For your fans.
Yeah, and it's more of a young adult, sort of futuristic series that I hope to publish for the more mainstream market. And I'm going to be looking for a new agent for that, and I hope I'll maybe have it done by Christmas. We'll see.
Okay. So if folks want to go to your website, is it CarreArmstrongGardner.com?
It's just CarreGardner.com.
CarreGardner.com.
And there's no I in my name. It's C-A-R-E, Carrie.
Yeah. It's very interesting spelling.
Yeah.
and Tass, for people to go and visit you, is it Hope of Ishmael?
HopeForIshmael.org.
Hope for Ishmael. Okay, great. And again, Carrie's book is They Danced On, and Tass's book is In the Mind of Terror, or The Mind of Terror. So both really, really good books. Both, as you can hear, wonderful people and authors. Fred, great job today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you want to say there, folks?
Oh, I just want to say, hey, thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to be here, and you know what? I hope we'll be, we'll have a long relationship.
I do too. I think you're fun.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Frankie.
Thank you.
We hope to see you in Jericho soon. We invite you to come to Jericho.
I'd love to meet you when you come.
To Jericho.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too.
Please reach out.
All right.
Okay, everybody, wherever you are in the world,
bye-bye.
Many blessings. Goodbye. We love you, and we'll be back next week. Take care. Bye now.
Thank you, Frankie. Thank you.
Hit Rash Production.